Okay, today we're tearing into the sources for a digital platform that, well, it really defines itself by what it's not. It's got this super aggressive motto: no therapy, no preaching, just real tools for real people. Pretty gold, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that motto, it's a perfect place to start our deep dive into this platform, Ride Your Demons. We're looking at it from two main angles today. First, we really need to decode the strategy behind that slogan, how they were trying to get mass appeal. And second, we take that whole philosophy and check it against the cold, hard numbers, the digital performance metrics, growth, user engagement, all that.
Right. So our mission here is to figure out if this raw, kind of unfiltered approach is actually connecting with people. Is it spreading? How fast? And what do the sources tell us about who's actually using this thing? We need to see if the strategy, this unconventional plan, actually translates into real digital momentum.
Okay, let's unpack this. So the first thing that just jumps out from the source material is the style of communication. It's forceful. They completely ditch any clinical language. It feels more like an immediate intervention, not like setting up an appointment. And beyond that main motto, the language is all about action, empowerment. Things like, life hits hard. We give you the weapons to hit back harder. Free, raw, and built for real-world battles. Wow.
And that's a really smart strategy for reaching a broad audience. It works by tearing down barriers right away. Our sources show this anti-clinical talk isn't just like a style choice. It actually makes it easier for people to engage. Think about it. If someone's in crisis, they might not have the energy for complex terms or self-diagnosis. This lowers that barrier. And then they hit the two biggest roadblocks, cost and stigma. Right there in the open. The tools are explicitly free and anonymous.
Yeah.
That just bypasses all the mental gymnastics that stop people from getting help sometimes. It's immediate, right when you need it.
Yeah, it's definitely strategic, but it feels high risk too, doesn't it? They're kind of trading that trust you get from clinical validation for pure speed and anonymity. Does the data actually show users picking speed over, a professional stamp of approval?
Well, the technical side certainly backs up that focus on speed and accessibility. The source material shows a real intentional focus on mobile users. Iterative too. We see mentions of a clean interface, a mobile version 1.4.4 refac, and even on the desktop version, there's a big button that says start mobile site. That tells you they know people in crisis aren't usually sitting at a desk. They're on their phones. It has to be fast, seamless.
Okay, so we've got the philosophy radical, direct, and the tech commitment, mobile first. Fast. Now let's look at the actual tools. The scope is huge. They call them the pick your demon categories. And looking at the list, it seems like they're targeting such a massive range of issues. Almost anyone struggling could find something relevant. I mean, the range is enormous. You've got foundational mental health stuff broken down for men, women, teen, and Gen Z, then big life crises, grief and loss, financial collapse, trauma rebuild, but they also get really
Here's
specific.
a type.
Things like
Click pulling YouTube description you can paste under the upload.
Addiction recovery, shame
It leans
recovery,
into escape velocity, real world performance, and the GA4 anomaly. Support the mission. Subscribe, like, and drop a comment with one insight.
Listening in on conversations.
It tells us they understand pain points the way people actually talk about them, not, clinically. Listing heartbreak loop next to financial collapse, that shows they're categorizing by lived experience, not the DSM-5 manual. And that's specificity. That's key for drawing users in. It makes someone feel instantly understood. They get it.
Yep.
And this understanding, it carries over into the community feature too. The chat app lets users jump into real-time rooms, drop a DM. It taps into that basic human need for connection, and they frame it with that statement: no one has to ride alone. Heck, it's a smart way to offer support while still keeping that core promise of anonymity.
Okay, but let's hit pause for a sec. The fine print, it's always important. If they're marketing these powerful weapons for things like heartbreak loops, how does that really aggressive marketing fit with the legal disclaimer? Which sounds pretty standard, actually.
Yeah, that's a really crucial point. That disclaimer is essentially risk management, unnecessary friction. The platform is very careful to state it's strictly for educational and informational purposes only. It says black and white. The content is not intended as a substitute for professional, medical, psychological, or legal advice, diagnosis, or treatment. So they're basically saying, look, we offer these raw tools, maybe they help, but legally, we're just information. It lets them keep that edgy tone, but covers them from a liability standpoint.
Right. That distinction tools, not treatment. That's vital context. Okay, let's shift gears now. Away from the philosophy, let's test it against the numbers. We're pulling this straight from the digital performance and user acquisition report. Time for the reality check. So here's a quick snapshot from the recent data. Total views around 16K, total users tracked at 758. But the number that really jumps out, defining engagement, is the event count. 60,000 total events. 60K. And that breaks down to, get this, an average of 80 events per active user. 80?
Wow. 80 events per active user. That's way beyond just casual browsing. If someone was just, say, reading an article a week, you'd expect maybe 4 or 5 events. 80 suggests they're not just finding the platform, they're using it, integrating it somehow, maybe working through a multi-step toolkit, coming back daily, clicking through different modules, or maybe heavy use of that chat feature. It confirms real stickiness, deep usage.
And that deep usage seems to be fueling some pretty explosive growth. Check out the user increase, 37.74% higher just in 1 month, September 1st to 30th, 2025. That's not just steady growth. In the software world, that's starting to look like disruption.
Yeah, the acceleration was so fast, it actually set off alarms in their analytics.
Yeah.
The sources mentioned the GA4 Google Analytics for it flagged an event spike. The actual event count hit 4,112. That smashed the high end of their own forecast range, which topped out at 3,999. So the platform's performance literally surprised its own tracking system.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Okay, beating the forecast like that, what does an event spike actually mean strategically? Does it signal something about the market being ready for this?
It means the event count is outside what they call the normal fluctuation range. It confirms the platform is seriously outperforming expectations. The sources actually use the term escape velocity.
Escape velocity. I like that metaphor. What does that actually mean for the platform's future, its trajectory?
It means they're likely building a powerful feedback loop, what the sources call a signal loop. You get more highly engaged users, they generate more events, search engines see this high value, which pushes the site higher in rankings, attracting even more users. You see, it's a self-reinforcing cycle. It confirms that the raw, mass appeal strategy is translating into real and accelerating digital momentum.
Okay, so let's follow these users who've hit escape velocity. Where are they actually coming from? The traffic data shows some pretty telling patterns. If we look at the main sources for active users, the biggest chunk by far is listed as direct, none. That's 418 active users.
Right. And for you listening, let's translate that technical term. Direct none usually means one of two things. Either really strong brand awareness, people are just typing the URL straight in, or perhaps more likely, given the engagement numbers, a lot of returning users. People who've bookmarked it, saved it, made it part of their routine. When you combine that with the 80 events per user we thought, direct traffic strongly supports that deep engagement idea.
Okay, after direct, the next big source is Facebook. Overwhelmingly significant. The sources break it down across different Facebook domains, m.facebook, lm.facebook, facebook.com, lm.facebook, but add them all up, it's 278 active users. That's almost as big as the direct traffic.
Exactly. And that heavy Facebook traffic, it directly validates using that raw, unfiltered language we talked about. That kind of content, it's highly shareable. It thrives on social platforms. Well, you do see traditional organic search, Google bringing in 60 active users, Bing another 3. It's clear that social is the main accelerator for getting new users right now.
And finally, there's this really unique geographic pattern flagged in the report. We have to touch on this. The data shows this huge concentration of users in specific cities in Western Canada. Like Vancouver leads with 296 users, then 100 Mile House has 52, Kamloops has 42. There's a bit in the US, Ashburn, Virginia has 20, but that Western Canadian focus is really striking.
Yeah, that localized clustering, mostly Western Canada, it gives us important context, maybe about their initial rollout. It could suggest a very effective beta launch or maybe a targeted seeding strategy in those specific areas. It seems like whatever word of mouth or maybe localized social marketing they did there, it worked incredibly well. They leveraged those regional networks, got some saturation perhaps before trying to go broader. It really shows the power of social sharing to kickstart that signal loop.
So what does this all mean? We've looked at the philosophy, the access, the hard numbers, the traffic. If we pull it all together, what's the core takeaway here?
I think the synthesis is pretty clear. We're seeing a platform use a really bold, almost anti-establishment message, no therapy, no preaching, to just demolish those traditional barriers to access, cost and anonymity mainly. And this isn't just like clever marketing talk. It's being proven out by some explosive digital performance. We're seeing that high user engagement, the deep usage, and a growth rate that, well, it literally surprised the algorithms. It hit escape velocity.
Right. So the success of Ride Your Demons, it suggests that this kind of direct, unfiltered talk about serious, high-stakes problems, a doc combined with instant anonymous access, that's a seriously powerful recipe for mass engagement today in this digital world. They seem to be cutting through the noise, noise, the clinical formality that maybe traditional services struggle with.
Exactly. And that leads us to the bigger kind of provocative thought we want to leave you with. If anonymity and this anti-jargon language, if those are the keys unlocking access for people in distress, reaching them at this scale, then how should the established professional services, medical, psychological, even other digital health platforms, how should they adapt? How do they change their own communication, their delivery, to meet the modern user where they actually are? It seems the market is screaming for tools, not just lectures.